What happens when you get 12 Catholic wellness girlies in the most insane villa of your entire life? I'm about to tell you. We just came back from our third ever Made Good getaway, our Made Good retreat for our clients. I'm joined by one of our beloved clients, and she worked the team. This is Kaelyn. So, we're going to give you the actual behind the scenes on what it was like to be on this experience. If you were watching my stories that weekend and you had major FOMO when you saw that gaucho dinner or our insane infinity pool, I want to give you a little bit more about why in the world we were there and what does it really mean to get to heal in community, and why is it so important as someone whose entire life is online and all of her work is online and has built a virtual practice for hundreds of women, not just in the country, but all over the world. Why is it still so important that we get together and be in person? Kaelyn, I'm so excited to get into this juice with you.
I'm so pumped to chat about it.
Okay, so real quick, how about before we get into retreat, let's talk about the transition from online to in person. You were one of our VIP clients last year, and then you were also the one that was like, no, we seriously need to be in person. Can you tell us a little bit more about why you're so passionate about that in general?
Of course, I will say when it comes to the Make Good program, it's so wonderful. It's so magical. And if it wasn't virtual, I would not have been able to participate it. During that time frame, I moved from Tennessee, I moved to Chicago. So I absolutely think that the virtual option allows more women to be reached and has its place. That being said, there is nothing like being in person with folks. I think about this with our Lord, right? I I feel like I say this to a lot of folks in different situations. He could have pushed a button from heaven to save us. He didn't. He came down to be with us. And that's worth thinking about and reflecting on. And we see that in our day-to-day lives. I work 100% remote and I really cherish the in-person time that I've had. So being with the girls physically was so wonderful and so different and complementary to the online calls.
Yeah. I brought this up. I'm going to have to find it. I should have had it ready for this one, but if I find it, I'm going to put it on screen. This is your reminder that the Made Good podcast video is always attached on Spotify. So if you're watching us on Spotify, woo, hopefully I'm going to put it up right here. If you're listening on Apple, switch over to Spotify. But I think I mentioned this to you last year when we started talking about this, but Pope Leo had a really good tweet, which whatever you call it. What do people call it now? An X, a post,
An
whatever.
ex
Yeah.
that eh,
Awful. That's a tweet.
jail.
But he had a really good tweet about like, it is so good when we find formation and community and learning and all those kinds of Catholic things online, but we cannot forget the importance of the incarnation. We cannot
Yes.
forget. And how I think a lot of the times it can kind of circumvent the parts that will make us grow the most. Like, it's amazing because you get to find people that are like-minded and like very specific niches or very specific interests to you. But think about how much your heart has to grow when you have to like love the random people at your parish, or when you have to like be with your neighbor and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, as much as I mean, I work online too, right? You get it when you're working online all day and you're like, yeah, it gives so much flexibility and it's so cool. And you have teammates like all over the world and that kind of thing. But there's something about who you are in person that is like your fullness that I think just we can't always translate it online. And I think my main hope for this episode of why we're even talking about the behind the scenes of the retreat is the power of community, and that you deserve to be like known in fullness. And when you get to be received in fullness by being like, I didn't know who to talk to. And so then I walked over to the dinner table. Two girls were already talking and I went and sat with them and they turned and they let me in. And like the body language and the healing that can happen with being with other people, or like that big hug, hello, or goodbye. And just what that does for like the mind and the heart of a woman. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I love it.
100%. Definitely. And I feel that we saw that, not to jump ahead, but I feel like we saw that in so many of the in between moments of the retreat. And you don't have the water cooler talks when you're online. But there's
Yeah, yeah.
right. There's something about like, hey, can you help me, work this coffee maker or whatnot? That fosters conversations and those little one-on-one moments that you're right, round out a person. That's so real that the person in front of you, you have to love in a way that's different than a constrained online version. That's Such a great point.
So to set the scene, if you're like, what in the, maybe you missed the Instagram stories, if you're like, what in the world happened on this retreat? Okay, let me walk you through the schedule of events, and then we'll tell you like our perspective of how it all went and what we noticed as people that were a lot observing. Obviously, we're participating, but we're observing literal magic happening before our eyes. I cried every day just watching these girls like fall in love with each other and become such good friends. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. Like, and I've seen so many magical feminine friendship moments, but something about this one and how fast it happened and the perfect blend of personalities, it was just all grace. So originally, it was a Friday to Sunday retreat, the classic. It's down here in Southern California. We were in San Diego. We got this insane villa. And then I was like, what if we open up Thursday night as a VIP dinner? If you register early, you get one extra night. We'll have this beautiful dinner, which was our Argentina asado night, which I should talk about more about the theme too and like what we were walking through with the choices that we made. But and I was like, and a lot of people are flying from the East Coast, and it'd be nice if they could just like be there already and not travel on Friday. I didn't expect every single person to make sure that they got that bonus. Every single person registered early. It literally sold out before we could even open the doors. The entire retreat sold out and I just didn't see that coming. But I'm like, wow, Jesus, thank you for teaching me just how much everyone else cares about incarnational time too. Like sometimes, when you're like, maybe I'm the only one that thinks this is important. And like maybe everyone would rather be online. I don't think that's true.
Not for Made Good. Made
No.
Good deserves in-person time.
Yeah. So everyone took us up on it. We had our Thursday night asado dinner, and then we were like, that's the only thing on the schedule. Go to bed. The villa was stunning. People had these like luxurious rooms. We also spoiled. I always like to have extra little surprises wherever we can. So we decided to spoil the first girl that registered because we were like, we're going to reward that risk-taking behavior because it is a risk. It is like putting yourself out there to be like, bah, I'm going to fly across the country and I'm going to go be on vacation with strangers. So the first girl, we gave her the master suite, which it was at the end of the weekend that I heard one of the girls go, wait, that whole thing is your room? Because it was like 3 rooms in one. I'll put a couple clips on here, but she had like the most insane bathroom and a steam shower and a bathroom with plants and the most insane view from her king size bed and a fireplace and her own fridge and like all of these kinds of things, just because we were like, it's such a big deal to take yourself on that kind of adventure, especially if it's not something that you always do, if it's something a little out of the ordinary, to be like, yeah, I'm going to go on a trip with strangers. So we did that one first. Any thoughts on that first part?
Room was beautiful.
I know.
Can't emphasize that enough.
And so then we had our dinner outside, which was one like a circadian tool because these girls are flying all the way across and we need to get their rhythm right so that they can be up in the morning. And this beautiful steak dinner because protein is a little bit harder to get on the first night. Are you still thinking about it? Because I'm still thinking about it.
Yes. Oh, so good.
The sweetbreads shocked me. I've had them so many times, but they were so much better than any other time I've had them. And
So
then the whole point of the weekend was rest and restoration. And the theme was that the world is your oyster. The reason that was like the anchoring theme was because I had been walking them through, and a lot of the main things we were doing was talking about the nervous system. And so we had done a sprint beforehand, which was like for our grads with a very specific focus. But overall, once you've learned your like basic foundations, the thing that you have to keep relearning and re-teaching yourself is how to teach your body and your brain that you're safe, which is like ultimately what nervous system regulation is all about. So like, how do I help when we're like, worry about your stress or like bring your stress down is like what every woman hears when she is working on her health. But like, what does that really mean? It's about helping bring your body into safety, you know?
yeah, absolutely. It's like, just have you tried to stop being stressed? Yes.
Oh,
I need
you
a
know
little
how.
more help than that.
Yeah. And so when it comes to that, I walked them through, which this part is in my book, that polyvagal theory, this ladder. And so if you haven't gotten the book, it's in there, chapter 6 or something. And there's the top. Oh, you have it right there. That's so funny.
You bet
So
I
there's like,
do.
there's the top of the ladder, which is where you feel the most safe and connected. That's like a really great way to think about it, which is where you look around and you're like, wow, people are good and I can do things. And so it's like an exercise that I walk people through is what is your main thought when you are in that state? What's your main thought when you're in fight or flight? What's your main thought when you're in that shutdown freeze mode? Which that freeze mode is when you're like numb, disconnected. You can probably scroll on your phone for like 6 hours straight, not even notice. And you're like, everything sucks. What's the point of trying? Fight or flight, you might find you get really aggro. I do. And it's like, everyone's my enemy, or I need to fight, or I need to run away, or I'm like drowning. And it's very activated. My main phrase when I'm in my best place, when I'm in my healthiest, when I'm at my most connected and regulated, is that I'm like, the world is my oyster. I can do anything. Like anything is possible. God is with me and the possibilities are endless, which is really where you want to be when we're talking about like favorite daughter syndrome and like really living like you are his beloved. I think a lot of it is being like, I could go do things and I could do anything that I want. And so that was kind of the initial perspective that I wanted the girls to have. And then within that, each of the meals was a little tour around the world. So our first meal, we go to Argentina, which is where my family's from, and I think has the best food in the world. Then the next day, we have like this massive Mediterranean grazing table, which was gorgeous. I also still think about that one.
So good.
Just so
So
many
good.
vegetables. Then we did a pasta cooking class and like a whole Italian dinner night from what we had learned at our Italian cooking school, our gluten-free school. Then we had tacos. Like we're kind of just going all over the world. But really wanting to get the girls into a place, which this was the fun of if you're listening to it and you're like, okay, but why is it like only for grads? Right now, because I know these girls. Like I know them personally and I know them well. And so to get to bring them on retreat, I was like, I know exactly who all these people are and I know what they're working on and I know like what they're like and I know what their gifts are and where I want them to go, where I want them to grow. And so it just helped kind of shape the retreat around these 9 specific girls, which was really exciting.
Yes, they gelled so well. I remember you and Mila had talked about the dynamics can be a little bit like a bachelorette party and it can be thrown off. Really, these girls were so lovely, every single one of them, and it was so fun to see them connect.
And like it couldn't have been more perfect. And the way that our registration went, it was like one person at a time. We had opened it up for a couple of hours. And so we're getting like the team emails, this person's in, this person's in. We're getting these text messages and we're like, no way, no way, no way, no way. Like every single name that came in, we were like, this is the best group ever. Like it could not be better. And so really just making sure that they could have a whole weekend of restoration and getting into that place. Because the truth is, people be going through it, you know? And life is real and life can be extremely challenging and extremely draining, which I feel like was kind of a theme that came out night one. I was like, hey, how are you coming onto retreat? And there was like a lot of stuff. Like you had been moving around a bunch of things and it's like that's hard. That takes a lot of brain power. Or people struggling with work or people struggling with different things, like it being like, I'm coming in with real burdens. And so, how can we take this weekend to replenish and to restore so that you have the strength to then on Monday go back and do what you have to do, you know?
Yeah, definitely having the women and myself included share how we're showing up set such a good tone for the first night and the whole retreat, and you really had this baseline of where people are coming in. You think you're the only one that's coming off of this really busy week, or you have all this stuff living in the back of your brain, and it turns out that the others do too, and we're all seeking that same kind of rest and replenishment.
Yeah. You're right because in your head it's so easy to be like, "Oh, I know that I'm going through a lot, but I don't want to be a downer." And I'm like, I can't bring that in here. And so to hear other people, it's like, okay, we're all in the same boat. So we're all trying to get out of that funk together was probably really, really freeing to hear.
Definitely, and it takes honesty of the women to set that tone. You know, you can't manufacture it, and so the fact that everyone was so willing to share, again, just really set the stage for great conversation and great connection.
Yeah, which is like part of that made good magic that people get what they put in. Like the openness and the willingness to be honest and vulnerable never ceases to amaze me because it's
It
so unnatural.
I was thinking about this. Yes, that is part of the magic of Made Good, virtually, particularly in person, stronger emphasis in person. I was thinking about that because most of the time when you come to Made Good, you're bringing these really tender desires or hopes or struggles. And for a lot of people, myself included, I don't think I really realized this that I was actually bringing those desires to the Lord, of course, but really to a doctor because I'm trying to get answers, I'm trying to get an understanding, and it wasn't met with the care that you want and that it really should be. And that is part of the magic of Made Good that you can bring these really, yeah, tender desires. And whether no one can take on that burden for you, but these women handle all of it with such care and such gentleness. I mean, from the Made Good team all the way down to the boots on the ground gals, and that is magical. That
Yeah.
is magical.
Because it's like technically we want to focus on our preservation and our protection. And if you think about, we've probably been on so many retreats, like your small group is so determined by if people are willing to be open or not. Like your whole retreat experience depends on, it makes me think about like leading high school retreats where you're like pulling teeth and being like, somebody please answer something. Like, I know you guys want to talk. To being at, I spoke at a retreat last year in Orange County, and from the stage, as I'm talking, I'm watching like 70-year-old women crying. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna wrap it up. They weren't supposed to go into small group. They were supposed to go into journaling, silent journaling, but everyone was like, and so open that I'm watching these women, like 30-year-olds comforting a 70-year-old crying and like 60-year-olds nodding along with a 20-year-old. It was like this beautiful intergenerational retreat, which I think actually we need more of. But it really is up to each individual what you're gonna bring and how. I like the I'm gonna be real. A phrase that I think about all the time is if you're not gonna dance, don't come to the party. Like, I think this all the time because it drives me insane when I went to the Tim McGraw concert 3 years ago, and I got there and everyone was sitting down.
Tim
Tim,
McGraw,
Tim
come
McGraw,
on.
get up, like get to work. And then so we got there and we kind of sat down in our seats and we're looking around and we're in the front row and we're like, everyone's sitting. And then I'm like, I didn't pay whatever I paid and spend my entire life dreaming of going to a Tim McGraw concert to sit down. So I got up at the end of the concert. So me and my friends were like all dancing the whole time. At the end of it, the girl behind us, she goes, hey, because you guys danced, I felt brave enough to get up and dance too.
Oh my
but
gosh.
but so much of it is like if you are at a party and no one is dancing, they're killing the vibe. And like the two people that want to dance now are like fighting through it, but it's like a lot more difficult. So like if you're not going to dance, don't come to the party. And I get it. I know that that can sound harsh for the person that doesn't like to dance, but sometimes it's like, hey, if you're not going to be open, don't put yourself in a situation where other people are trying to. And then on the flip side, it's if you really want to make real connections, which I had a call with the girls. I think I told you this. I had a call with the girls like Monday before we left. And I was like, hey, what's your vibe? Like, what's your dream for this trip? And so many of them, it was, I just want to rest, relax, and I want to make connections. And so when everyone's on that same page, that's where the magic happens of it being like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to be willing. I'm going to be myself. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be open and tenderhearted. And it just creates this like beautiful, soft place to land, this opportunity. Women just blossom in the presence of other good women. It's the most beautiful thing. Like what women bring out of each other, I could scream.
I completely agree. I wanted to bring every single one of them home to be my friend. Yeah, and they danced. I'll say that. They
Oh,
came
they
up
were the
to the
best.
party, showed up to the party, and they
They
danced
dance.
because yeah, I mean, it was we had several days that allowed for those conversations to evolve, but still, it's only a few days, and the fact that the women showed up to dance and be vulnerable allowed it to go deeper so
Fast.
quickly in a really productive, fruitful way,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
lovely.
I promised them I would do a session where I broke down the science of the retreat. There's like very specific things that I built into the schedule from like a brain and heart perspective to help it be the best experience for them. Let me know if you want to see that because I'll just record that session that I do for them and post it on here too. There's a lot of science to how you help open up someone's hearts. But I'm just thinking about one of the girls. She was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna be real. One of my fears is that I'm a little bit more introverted. I'm like used to being more introverted, and I'm worried that by the time I warm up, the trip is over." And it was one really cool that she said that because I think it's super relatable. And one of the things I was telling the girls, I don't know if you were at breakfast that day or if you've ever experienced this, but have you ever been in like a small group where you feel like it's moving so fast that you can't help yourself share your thought?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's not like anyone else that's doing anything wrong, but it's like I've been in that situation where I take a little bit longer to gather my thoughts and then it's like I don't know where to get in, and I always think about it as like a
Mhm.
roller rink, and like we have a roller rink here in Orange County, the Fountain Valley Skate Center, and it gets bumping on a Friday night. And I went once with my friends on a Friday night, and everyone there were roller skaters, and they're dancing and like on one foot and doing twists and turns and all these things. I am no longer a roller skater. I've lost that skill of my youth. And I remember standing at you have that little doorway where you're trying to get into
Right.
the rink, and I could not like figure out where everything was happening so fast. And I was like, I don't know how to figure out how to get in there. And I've been in like I remember my first summer as a missionary being with my first small group and being at our Bible study. And I was like, I don't know how to help myself get into the conversation because it takes me a minute to be like, well, I think this is what I think. And so I was telling them that, and they were like, that's exactly how it feels. Like, yes. And I was like, okay, great. You get me. We're on the same page. And so sometimes it's having to just put a foot out and be like,
Mhm.
I think that this is how I think I have a thought, or hey, ladies, what do we, And I think they all just did a really good job of making that experience for them, which is the benefit of being on retreat with people that you have been around in some capacity. I remember the girls, one of them was like, I had felt so connected to this girl on our calls. And so when I found out that she was on the retreat, I was so excited because just from her, like what she would share on calls, I already was like, man, I think we'd be friends. That it already helps you kind of warm up. If you are someone that is more introverted, that it takes a little bit longer to warm up, that's not a flaw. It's not a bad thing to be someone that's introverted or slower to speak or is more introspective. And so to be in an environment where that can be like watered and you can have a place and kind of rewrite maybe some of the lies that have come of that of like, "Oh, man, like, I'm never the one that can warm up." But to get to be in a place where it could be like, "Yeah, by the end of it, I totally caught up." And she did. She was like, "I had the best experience, and I totally was able to open up because of you guys." It was so sweet.
Roller rink image is hilarious. Hilarious and such a good way to illustrate what happens. I think that that experience of that girl speaks to the foundation that Made Good puts, right? There is this foundation where these women will again they can't take on all the burden, but they're gonna pray for you, support you, cheerlead you, and be that soft place to land. And you're right, they had built that foundation prior to coming here, and then it just blossomed even further, being able to connect in person. I
Yeah.
love that.
And the, like, sprint that we had done, they had, like, been in the program, and then I did a specific grad sprint, which was also quite vulnerable and juicy and exciting. So it's just one of those where it's those things all layer on top of each other in the best way. I had people either cry on their discovery call, on their strategy call, or on a group call. But like at some point,
Mhm.
the soft hearts break open and it's a beautiful thing. It's a good thing to cry. It's so good for you. Um,
I agree. The Lord's working.
okay, should we talk about what we were trying to create that felt different from other wellness or I guess even spiritual events? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Ooh, it definitely was different. I say this about Made Good to my friends that I explain. It has this beautiful Catholic foundation, but it's not necessarily a deep theological course. It just speaks to so many different areas of womanhood with the truth, right? With this beautiful Catholic lens. And I feel like that manifested in the retreat, where of course there was mass, there was prayer. I'm chuckling about we might have called on a saint to help us get rid of a snake.
Oh, yeah.
All of those parts that are so beautifully integrated, and that itself distinguishes it from anything out there, right? From any kind of wellness retreat that is not it can't truly be a holistic view of yourself if it doesn't also take into account your soul
Yeah.
and where that is.
Yeah.
What
I
are your
feel
thoughts?
like so many wellness retreats that I see are yoga, which if you listened to our last episode, I knew it was going to be our most controversial one. And I don't think everyone even made it to the end because based off some of the comments, I was like, we already addressed that. You didn't make it to that part of the episode. Anyways, so many things that it feels like the wellness world can be such a spiritual battleground and such a minefield that you're like, I can't even walk into that place. Like, I'm not going to go because there can be so many weird woo woo things, especially when it comes to holistic well being, because it's just kind of been co opted by like new age stuff, whatever. And then sometimes with spiritual events, retreats, which we all need, and I'm not saying that this is ever a replacement for a spiritual retreat, but there's like a different time and a place where it's like, yeah, sometimes you do need the silent retreat and the cafeteria food. You know, like that's that's just one thing. But to be able to be in the environment where so much of it is about play and is about being little and is about just enjoying life and living a good life. And what does it look like to do that for a weekend without it being like every single spiritual exercise and every single wound you've ever had, we're going to go through it this weekend. There's just different times and places. And I felt like there was a gap there where we could just like have women be women and take care of their bodies. And what does it mean to live a nourishing life? Which is what is it going to take for you to have growth and healing and restoration? And that's really what it's about. It's more than just like the food that we're feeding you, which is very, very good, but to the whole person, like you're saying, it's like your mind, your body, and your soul. And the feminine heart is so particular in what she needs to grow. And women really do regulate through fun. Like a lot of men will regulate through more order, more structure, but women really do regulate and heal and restore through play and through fun and through laughter and through just like being together and being silly, even just like one of the nights when they were like, we're all going to go watch Princess Diaries now. And it's like, yes, that makes sense to me. You can go do that. Or
Love
going
that.
swimming every single chance that they could. Or the way that they got like obsessed with the pickleball situation was hilarious to me. Of just like how much more freedom we find in that as women.
That is such a great point about the other 2 retreat options
Yeah.
that float around in the world. I agree, particularly with a secular wellness retreat. It maybe it doesn't say yoga, but you don't really know, and so you can't quite relax into it, right? You probably don't even go, but you know, even if you did, you wouldn't be able to relax into it because you're spending so much time being on guard of like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 is this in line with church teaching or not?" And at Make Good, you do get to relax into it, right? You can trust that that is being considered and is aligned. I think on the other hand, you're right. I agree. I love a good church retreat. We love a good church
We
retreat,
need
but I
them
do
once a year.
yeah, we need that. That is such a good point. But we often churches often have limited resources and they operate differently, right? And so you go for the spiritual nourishment, probably not for the best meal of your life. And as women in particular, right, we respond to the good, the true, and the beautiful. And this retreat had the beautiful, right? It had this, I hope everyone saw the pictures and the videos because it had this beautiful spread. It has this gorgeous sunset dinner. You're in this beautiful place. It puts you in such a good place to relax and to receive what the Lord might be giving you that weekend.
Yeah. I think one thing across well, one with what you said of you can't relax into some of like the wellness events. I was going to go to an event in LA last year. It was a wellness event. And I was like, oh yeah, amazing. The night before, I finally looked at the website and everything that was happening. And I decided not to go because I was like, you know what? You lost me with the Sage Tarot aura photograph situation, like all of these different things and like the vendors that were going to be there and like what the talks were about that I was like, "Oh, I don't think this is for me." That's okay. But I want to make that for the Catholic girls because we also care like we of all people in the world should be the most wellness oriented because we understand the dignity of the human person in the body anyways. Um, but even whether it's, I think the power of retreats, exactly what you're saying, like the beauty of getting your out of your environment. There's like the Carmelite retreat house that I go to here in LA, or when I went to go visit like the sisters in Indiana, and the like simple beauty of getting to be out of your environment. I swear I get some of the best sleep of my life in convents. Like when I'm in that sweet little cell that just has like a picture of the Blessed Mother and a lamp, and it's it's always the best night. But the importance of getting out of your environment, getting out of your normal routine place, and whether it's like, yeah, go on vacation, go on a trip if you can, or getting to go somewhere that things are organized for you. But I just can't
Mhm.
even stress how much your brain needs to be taken out of its environment every so often for you to see your life differently and see yourself differently.
Mhm. Yes, definitely. Yeah, that's a great point. Even if there wasn't all the programming, there weren't all the beautiful meals, just being outside of your environment is going to allow you to take a step back and think about some things.
Yeah.
I
There's
agree.
like I was reading it's like there's a certain term for it, but there's a principle of what you experience when you're traveling, which is that you have this kind of you're in this liminal space where you could be anyone. And like no one really knows who you are. And so you could become whoever you want, which is why there's the joke of like you go on a beach vacation and suddenly you're the person that wakes up at sunrise and drinks matcha every day when maybe you usually like wake up at 11 and only drink black coffee. But the way that your brain will open up to being like, who am I going to be on this trip? And how important it is to give yourself those experiences. And I would say, going back to like what you were saying, the burdens of life, especially if you feel like you've been going through it. Sometimes I feel like literally just going one town over to a coffee shop you've never been to will help your brain and your nervous system so much. And I have been telling our girls that this time after I came back from Italy, I was like, everyone, you need to go do something new. Like, you need to go have fun and go get out of your typical environment, even if it's taking the train 2 hours south or it's driving 30 minutes away. But your brain needs, especially if you feel like you have been at your limit or you have been at that place where you're like, I'm numb or I'm drowning or I'm so overwhelmed, a good night's rest, a good meal, and a day trip can really bring a lot of perspective, of course, with prayer, but can really bring a lot of perspective in a way that sometimes you just don't see the solution from the inside. Like you're too far in the jar, you can't read the label anymore.
That's funny. I've not heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The inside the jar can't read the label. But yes, I that is a great point.
Yeah. And I think you could see that the impact that getting out of your environment in real time. So we actually did our temperaments on day 2, which was like a totally random breakfast conversation where you're like, everyone pull out your phones. It wasn't a scheduled thing, but now I think it might have to be. But we realized that the majority of the room, their primary I should probably explain it. There's the temperaments, go to temperamentquiz.com to find yours, but there is 4 temperaments: melancholic, choleric, phlegmatic, and sanguine. Sanguine is your social butterfly. She is your like, I just want to be with people. You might consider her the life of the party, but she certainly gets her cup filled by being with people as much as possible and is just a people person through and through, is very passionate and lively typically. If you think I'm butchering this, go ahead and elaborate in the comments. Choleric is me, which, so if it sounds like I'm being harsh about cholerics, it's not. I'm just being direct. Cholerics see life in black and white, and there's one right way to do this, and they're extremely decisive and very, very passionate people. They are typically going to be the driver of the group. That's like, let's go do this. This is what we should do. This is how we should do it. They're really great for moving. And this is just how I see them. This is Flo's crash course to temperaments as she understands it. But you should read the temperament God gave you if you really want to get into it. Melancholics are deeply feeling and they have oceans for hearts. Not that the other people don't, but they just experience things very, very deeply and they're quite introspective. The phlegmatics are your go with the flow in a way that I could never. I don't have one phlegmatic cell in my body. I guess unless I'm like traveling with my husband, where I like really shut my brain off. But the phlegmatics are like so. Yeah, what's up? They're good. They're good with whatever's about to go down. That's how I see them. Anyways, so we did our temperament test and we realized the majority of the room was melancholic and phlegmatic. So super relaxed people, very relaxed temperaments. I think we had 2 sanguines. Are you choleric?
I'm choleric.
Me too. Me and you were the only
Mhm.
cholerics,
Of
and
course.
I think that was about it. So a really interesting, like, dynamic, but generally speaking, people that identified as a little bit more calm, maybe more introspective, maybe some of them would identify as shy, but they did a really great job with it. But the energy difference on day 1 compared to the last day. Again, magic, which we don't believe in, but I don't know what other word, like grace, gift, pure heavenly blessing, I don't know.
All of it.
But day 1, like, seeing the excitement, which first of all, I was like we scheduled, like, an hour between when they arrived at the villa and when dinner was, and I was like, "Y'all go freshen up and lay down." They had, like, their own rooms, their own bathrooms, all that kinda stuff. I step back out, 20 minutes later, everyone's out there. I was like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "We're too excited." "What do you mean we're gonna go take a nap? Like, we're too excited, we're here." And
I
so they
guess.
just, like, wanted to be together, and then it opened up into a game night in the living room.
Yes. I loved
What
it.
did you think about the energy on day 1 and how things shifted by the time we left?
Yeah, it's a great question. I do think travel plays a part in this, right? When you're on day 3, you might have a little bit more sleep, be a little
That's
less tired
true.
from travel. But I do think on the first night, I think there was a little bit of nervous energy. Yeah, nervous energy. It was still there, right? There was still energy and lots of excitement, right? But I think a little bit of nerves. And that certainly settled in very quickly. And then it's the second day, it's the third day, and everyone has found time for that small side conversation that they wanted to have with a particular person who said something that really resonated. Or they're all like, hey, let's go do another game of pickleball, which was so fun. And so I will say it very quickly went from nervous energy to yeah, just a fun moving and grooving time, and I was sad to leave, and I know everyone else was on the last day, so that's definitely where things ended.
Oh my gosh, it's so and they were like one of the girls on, like, day 2 was like, "We should do this every year." Just our
Yes.
group, and we should have a reunion every year, and then we were talking about, should we go to France together? Should we do the inn-to-inn walking in Vermont together? Like, there's so
Yes.
many possibilities, but I think, like, that night 1 and morning 1 taught me so much 'cause I think it was just such a master class in being in a foreign environment and putting yourself out there. Like, any retreat
Mhm.
you go on, any conference you go to, anything like that, any a bachelorette party, usually you're not friends with the other bridesmaids, you know? And just, like, what it looks like to model the right attitude and the right disposition that makes you someone that's easy to approach, that makes you someone that makes other people feel comfortable and safe. I feel like every single woman, I was just, like, watching their mannerisms, watching what they were choosing to do with their free time. Even if it being like, "Hey, you guys have 1 or 2 hours to, like, go decompress and get ready, dinner's not until then." And I was just watching what each person chose to do, and I feel like it just modeled so much for me and taught me so much of it being like, yeah, coming into the living and no one another thing, your phone is killing your social life, and it's killing the opportunities that God is putting in your way to make new friends, and putting away your phone is one of the most powerful things you can do if you have been praying for friendship. If you have been praying like, "God, send me a new friend or send me a friend group," which I know a lot of people really want, but sometimes can feel like a myth. It sometimes feels like a sitcom, story that's sold to us because not everyone has a friend group. But the
Mhm.
way that no one brought that out, or they would step out if they needed to take a phone call, just made it so much easier to be around. And it creates this environment of like, you want to be around me and I want to be around you. And I feel like I can like open up a conversation. These girls were just like masterful at the art of new friendship.
Yes. And when it comes to technology, I think we might be all guilty of this. Yeah, you've got a phone call or you've got a FaceTime, but oh, that email came in
Yeah.
or whatnot. And being in person, it's so easy. It's so easy just to leave your phone in the other room and have that conversation where you are completely dedicated to talking to them. I think that we talked about too how important it is to share, which it is, right? You have to be a little bit vulnerable, But one thing that really stuck out to me, particularly on day 2, was that the women would ask follow-up questions. Now, I've been in women's groups, I probably a lot of people can relate, where people share stuff and then it's just silence. And honestly, that is that can be totally fine. Sometimes that is the appropriate way to handle that conversation, but I think it means a lot when you share a little bit and somebody asks a really thoughtful follow-up question or responds really intentionally to what you said. And so I feel like I saw really this give and take of, okay, I'm sharing a little bit, and then somebody else that and probably had these thoughts of, oh my gosh, should I ask? Is this too
Yeah.
vulnerable? Is
Yeah.
she okay sharing? They would be like, no, I think this is the right place to, and they'll share what they want to. And so they would ask that question, and it comes across as it is intentioned, which is with so much love and compassion and like, "Hey, I am hearing what you're saying, really listening and responding."
It's so good to be with people that pray, love Jesus.
Yes.
And yeah, but even just like the feminine heart, exactly what you're saying of knowing when to step in one step closer and when to be curious and when to be like, yeah, like if you don't mind me asking, like, can we talk about that a little bit more? Just a lot of what's the word? Discretion and like
Mhm.
just an emotional intelligence and like that the feminine
Mhm.
genius on display of the receptivity of women to other women that again we're talking about like the comparison with being online you just can't super do that and I guess I have seen girls in made good like will I whenever we get on our Zoom calls I'll be like use the chat like nobody's business
Mhm.
any program that you're ever in with me you're going to hear me say that on day one because we have to try and make it human. And so people will use the chat to be like, I feel the same way, or like, you're amazing, or whatever it is. And I have had some situations where I've seen girls share something, and then someone will reach out to them privately and separately and be like, hey, like, let's talk more about this. Or hey, you brought up that you were going to be in Denver for the weekend and you're looking for friends. I'm in Denver. Like, let's hang out. Two girls just got coffee on Monday. I thought it was so sweet. And they've only been in Made Good for like 3 weeks. So they just like made the connection offline. But to be in person, again, going back to what we were saying in the beginning, the way that it allows you to be received and to be with people that are so emotionally intelligent and so receptive and so beautiful is just so healing when it's just not always like that. Like if you don't have super good Catholic community in your area and your heart is thirsting and longing for it, what a balm to the soul to get to be around Catholic women, you know?
Yes, a balm. That is exactly what it is. I agree completely. Can't say enough about it. I could spend forever talking about that, but agreed. The women, it's so easy to talk yourself out of,
Yeah.
"Oh, should I say this?" It's easy to not say something, but I think all the women, it's obvious that they have a heart for women as well. Like they really love the people that were in that room, and so I think that also give them the confidence of like, "No, I'm gonna ask this a little bit deeper," and it did take everything so much deeper.
It's just a very particular kind of person that gets drawn into the made good world. Like, that's a
Mm.
very particular kind of woman, it's a very particular kind of heart. She probably cares a ton about, like, not just, um healing, but like other women doing well and the healing that Jesus can bring and wanting to live in freedom and living in daughterhood and wanting to have fun. I think that that's something that makes this community very particular is that it's like, it's not sad beige wellness over here. It's really trying to be like, what's the most zip and zest that I can have in my life, which is what one of the girls had told me when she was registering, like at the end of last year. She was like, I looked at some other wellness programs, but this one had the most zip and zest. So that's what I went for. And I was
She's
like,
right.
you're right, you know? But it's just a very particular kind of person. So it's good when you have a hyper specific community that you're
Mm.
like, okay, if I was drawn into this, it must be very, very specific. Whereas sometimes, you know, the range of what a Catholic woman is like is 10 million miles long. Like there's so many different types of Catholic women and everyone gets to have their own little pocket. And I'm just grateful for ours of
Mhm.
it being the Catholic gal that wants to live a joyful, full life that believes that food can be nourishment and healing, that wants to do it alongside other women, that doesn't want to heal in isolation is just really, really special.
Yes, I was thinking about this too. I shared a little bit at the retreat that, I I went to a very small school, and so there was a little bit of the in crowd and the out crowd with girls, and so I feel like even now at 30 years old, you still work through those things. I've heard that it said that you have very few new experiences, and so you tend to process things through original experiences.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I always realized how much it impacted me, but over the retreat, I shared a little bit, and so many women came up to me individually and commented on it, in of course, like, such a good, lovely way. Even I mean, praise the Lord for those women. That was so lovely, so healing. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Even if they hadn't said that, there was something healing and just so good about being with women that only have good intentions for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would just I don't I have a feeling there's some girl listening to this that that might really resonate with, and so just know that this is gonna be the opposite of any mean girl experience. It's gonna be the complete opposite. You are gonna be in such good hands, and it's gonna be unlike anything that you might have experienced elsewhere.
Oh, yeah. I was just thinking about like what can happen one weekend that doesn't can take months or years at home, and some of the lies that can get unfruited and healed in your heart, and wounds in your heart that can get healed like within a weekend. I really do believe that Jesus can do that. And like what you're saying of being in an experience of, yeah, I've had that really sad playground memory that shaped the way that I interacted with women for the rest of my life. And something like this can be a balm to the soul. Or I'm thinking about how often the lie is, well, what I have to say doesn't really matter, or it's probably dumb to speak up anyways, or no one really cares, so like I'm just going to keep that thought to myself, like it's not an important thought. And how often we can kind of censor the simplest things because the idea is I can only share something when it's going to be of a great magnitude and totally earth-shattering and incredibly wise or like incredibly powerful. When if we're constantly scaling and rating, is what I'm about to say the smartest thing in the room or the most powerful or the wisest thing in the room, we can we can kind of shut ourselves down to the point of not speaking at all. And the way that challenge, like being in that room, I think that was one of the first things that we talked about, that I was like, you should probably just assume. And I say this in Made Good every time, like, you should assume that what you have to say matters. And of
Mhm.
course, like, be thoughtful. We don't just like talk for the sake of talking. I feel like so many saints talk about that. But getting yourself into a place where you can be like, what if this thought isn't dumb? Like, what if it is
Mhm.
worth sharing? And what if someone else feels the same way? Or what if someone else would like really resonate with that? And getting to be little again, kind of the way that we're so unfiltered when we're children, and that we're like, I love the horse on your shirt. Let's go play horses in the playground. And you're like, yeah. And you're just like so free until you get taught otherwise, until you get wounded otherwise. And what is it like? I just think that Jesus wants to heal that, even when you're 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. I don't think he wants to leave you in that wounded place of being like, I don't think that I can be around other women, or other women aren't going to respect or welcome me, or my thoughts aren't valuable. I think no matter any age, he wants to redeem that, and he wants you to be little and be in communion again.
Yes, it's funny, it feels obvious in hindsight, but it didn't really hit me until this conversation that obviously you go to the retreat for for yourself in some ways, right? Like your own opportunity to step outside of your day to day. But the Lord, of course, is going to use that opportunity to work through you and touch somebody else. And I feel like we could say 100 examples from the retreat of that. Yeah, I would just keep that in mind too, that it's like you're right. That's another reason to share what you might want to share, because it's going to touch somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. When we were in college, Cal State Fullerton, Tusks up. We had our beloved priest, Father Aaron Riamalos. I think you're back in the Philippines, but if you hear this, I love you so much. But he would, at the end of every daily mass, at the end of his homily, he would go, and I think what I'm trying to say is, or he'd go, or I think what today is about. And so that's how he would summarize and kind of land the plane. I think, obviously, if you're listening to this, you're probably not one of the 9 girls that got to come on retreat. But I think what I want you to know is that, one, there is a good place where good things happen to you and for you, and there are good people. And that if you have like felt connected with the Made Good community, with the podcast, with my Instagram, with the if you've been in the programs, anything like that, of I want you to know that we're working really, really hard to bring that community to you. and to have different ways within this next year that you can be a part of it, because I want you to have a place where you can be Catholic and care about wellness and have fun. That's it. That's like what I want for you. Um, and just the power of incarnational time with other women, and the getting your wheels spinning about what would it be like if you, even just the examples that we're sharing, is there a place in your life where you could embody any of these things? The way that I'm saying that these girls are really putting themselves out there, or like what Kaylin was saying about like, hey, those mean girl experiences can be rewritten, or going out and playing. Like probably should have explained more about the villa, but there was a tennis and pickleball court, there was a pool, there was a sauna, a gym, a Pilates room, and then just living rooms where you could just sit and chat and play games or hang out. There was a movie theater, but having these places for connection because we wanted to give them chances to get out of their ordinary. And one of the other things is like, what can happen in a weekend is that you can try on a new identity and then take it home and live with it. So, like, all the girls, except for one, had never done a Pilates class before. We brought in a Pilates instructor. 3 of them this week have already gone to a Pilates class. That's wild numbers, you know? And so just getting to say that you can take a weekend to, whether you get to come on a Made Good retreat or you do your own thing. What would happen if you got yourself out of your environment? Maybe you can book a weekend trip. Maybe you're going to play 2 weeks in Europe, or maybe that's not where life is right now. And you're going to go take 2 hours to go the next town over to somewhere you've never been, to the diner you've never been, to the cafe you've never been, and get out of your environment. And then what opportunities for connection might be there? Is there someone that you've been wanting to meet up with? Or is it just like you're going to have a sincere conversation with the waitress and actually tell her why you're there, and not kind of censor yourself and not filter, and be really excited about being human again? And then I think the third piece is the prayer part of, what parts of your heart do you want Jesus to heal when it comes to friendship, community, being with other women or Catholic women? Where do you need him to speak hope and breathe new life that you can be loved and known? And what, like, being really real with him. Jesus, this is where I need you to show up. This is what I'm asking of you. And this is the opportunity that I'm looking for. Or I just need like one friend that I can really laugh with. Or I need someone that I can like open the Bible with. Maybe you don't have that. And he answers them. I can't tell you how many times I've had to be like, Jesus, I need friends so bad. Like, I need Catholic friends so bad. And he just went right to my aid. And he was so, so generous and gentle in that. But he answers these prayers, and he does care about the desires of your heart. And I think in particular, the power of feminine friendship, it's one of the greatest blessings of life. And I know everyone like with the single gals, the big wound and the desire for finding a husband, don't forget how much your heart can be satisfied with deep feminine friendship. And for the married woman, that it's like, you get married. Just if you're wondering, you get married and then you're like, gosh, I miss being around girls so much. You know, I heard one of the girls say that, one of the girls that was married, and she was like, I haven't gotten to spend like kind of have slumber party vibes with the girls in so long. And just the beauty of it. There's nothing that can ever replace good feminine friendships.
Could not say it better. I completely agree. I remember one night I was like, Lord, give me a friend. And probably 35 minutes later, a girl who had heard me on a recording say, I just moved to Chicago, messaged me. And she is so wonderful. And the value of that virtuous friendship. Um, I agree. Married, single, in all walks of life, that is so important. And the Lord he loves working through those friendships.
He does. He loves giving them to you. And so if this is stirring some parts of your heart where you feel lack, where you feel pain, where you feel loneliness, or where maybe it's triggering something that you're like, "Whoa, okay, this is giving me a new lease on life, and I'm totally going to pray for these things." Amazing. And I am going to be praying for you. I just want to encourage you that whatever part of your heart is seeking friendship and communion, and to be known and loved, and to know and love someone, you probably have so much love to give. You can't, be annoying with your prayer. Like, be the widow that just keeps knocking. Keep bothering God. Like, you're never bothering him, but keep telling him over and over and over and over how bad you want something, and believe that he wants to heal you and that he wants to help you. Do you have any last thoughts for anyone that's listening?
I have to say this. Made good, I say this all the time to my friends and family. Made good is exactly what you want your doctor to be. They show up, they take such care of you. They take all of these disparate symptoms that you feel frustrated that you're not getting answers on, and they bring order to the chaos and walk with you in truly, truly, truly a holistic way, a whole person way. And so if you're thinking about it, I always joke I'm the opposite of an impulse buyer. But after my first discovery call with Flo, I remember Flo, you were like, "What questions do you have?" I was like, I don't have questions. I actually just have fears. And I talked you through all the fears that I had, and you addressed every single one of them in honest ways. And I was like, yeah, I'm in. And here I am. Like, gosh, I don't even remember when I first joined Made Good, but I cannot imagine where I would be without it.
Wow, praise Jesus. That's so generous of
Yes.
you. Um, yeah, he wants to do good things for you. And yes, we are here to fill a very specific gap, which is that there are very good doctors, don't get me wrong, and we all need a doctor in our corner. And I literally got a DM from a doctor the other day that she was like, "Yeah, thanks for being able to sit with people because I can't do that." And that's like not exactly where their role can be. And so if you are the person that wants more accompaniment than the 15 minutes doctor's appointments, those have a place. But if you are really looking to change your life and change your health, and you know that you're the kind of person that thrives in community, if you're like, yeah, my whole spiritual life changed when I finally joined a Bible study, that's kind of the person that we work with, the person that loves community and that loves accompaniment and that loves being with other women. I'll leave the application in the show notes. Our wait list is open, and I have something else very fun and summary planned that will be more of like a shorter challenge sprint for my girls who really just want to lock in on their habits and maybe aren't ready to do the full 3 or 6 month program. But we have some very fun things that will be coming your way. If you are a Made Good grad, the waitlist will also be open very soon for retreat. And like I told you, it sold out before the doors even opened last time, so make sure you hop on it. But no matter what, if you're listening, I hope that you can go take this to prayer about where your heart is desiring friendship and healing, and just give Jesus a chance to speak and to tell you that he has good plans for you and what that could look like this year, because I'm certain they are there. Okay, Kaelyn, thank you so, so much for joining us today.
Thank you. This was so fun.
This was so fun. If you enjoyed this episode, or if you're like, oh, I have to go on a retreat with a friend, send it to them. If you want to leave a comment on Spotify, go ahead. If you want to be able to go on a Made Good retreat one day, you have to be a Made Good grad. So make sure that you joined in on one of our programs first. But otherwise, I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I hope that you know that the Lord has such good plans for your heart and for your friendship. And until the next episode, I love you very much, and you are made so, 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 so good. God bless you.